Hello, everyone, welcome back to the World Conflict Monitor. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today, we are going to examine in depth the development behind Putin deploys hypersonic missiles to Belarus, what it means. We will treat this almost like reviewing a product, considering its exterior profile, interior architecture, i.e., underlying systems, logic, context, performance, safety risks and countermeasures, unique selling points, what advantages it gives, cost/price, what is its economic and strategic cost, and conclude with what all this implies. When reading this, keep in mind that we are dealing with weapons systems and geopolitical strategy, so interior means the internal logic, technical subsystems, decision making, doctrines, and strategic rationale rather than physical seats or dashboards. Let's begin with the exterior, that is, how this deployment appears to the outside world, how it is presented, how it is framed, and what observable elements are visible to analysts, opponents, and the public. On the surface, Russia has announced that its new hypersonic missile system, known as Oreshnik, sometimes transliterated as Oreshnik, meaning hazel tree, has entered production and is being prepared for deployment in Belarus. Putin said it would be feasible in the second half of next year, i.e., late 2025, once serial production is scaled up and sites in Belarus are ready. Some deployments or preparations have already been observed via satellite imagery, where launch infrastructure seems to be under construction near Minsk, and satellite data shows cleared areas and protective structures around possible launch zones. From the visual side, one sees hardened launch pads or silos, protective earth berms, canister storage, support vehicles, security perimeters, radar installations, command and control nodes, and transport convoys moving missile canisters or support equipment. All of that gives the impression of a forward posture. Russian strategic weapons are now closer to NATO and European borders. The messaging is that Belarus is becoming part of the Russian strategic perimeter. Externally, the move sends a political and psychological signal. Russia is willing to put its advanced weapons on Allied territory, crossing thresholds that earlier were reserved for Russia itself, and alerting adversaries that the missile threats are mobile, forward, and harder to counter. Now, the interior, the deep dive into the architecture, the technical, doctrinal, decision systems, logistics, and strategic logic behind this deployment. This is the heart of our analysis, and thus must be a larger section. The Oreshnik missile is often described as an intermediate range ballistic missile ERBM with hypersonic capabilities. It is believed to draw on or derive from the RS-26 Rubezh program, possibly as a modified, truncated version removing a booster stage to reduce range but keep speed to comply with internal constraints. Public sources claim that Oreshnik can achieve speeds over Mach 10 i.e., 10 times the speed of sound, and that it is equipped with multiple warheads or submunitions, possibly MIRV, multiple independently targetable reentry vehicles, though the exact configuration is still under debate. The range is reported to be on the order of 500 km, placing much of Europe and beyond within reach from Belarus deployment. Inside the system are guidance systems, likely inertial plus mid-course updates or satellite corrections, navigation, warhead control, reentry vehicle control, and possibly maneuvering capability to avoid defenses. Some analysts are skeptical of how accurate or reliable these systems are, especially for conventional payloads. For nuclear payloads, lower accuracy tolerances are acceptable. For conventional strikes, high precision is critical, and open source analysis suggests that the conventional accuracy may be less impressive. The decision architecture involves Russian strategic command, political leadership, and Belarusian coordination, Russia's doctrine has recently been altered to lower the threshold for nuclear use and to extend a nuclear umbrella over Belarus, meaning that any attack on Belarus might justify a Russian nuclear response. Belarus, in turn, gives Russia legal cover and territory. Lukashenko has publicly requested deployment of Oreshnik systems on Belarusian soil, citing the need to bolster deterrence and regional security. The targeting doctrine is reportedly left to Belarus to decide, within the bounds of the treaty framework with Russia. Logistics: Russia must move missile canisters, fuel, support vehicles, transporters, radar and telemetry, supply lines, maintenance, spare parts, and security forces. These are non-trivial in cost and complexity, especially across international border and in a region with limited existing infrastructure. Belarus must host bases, provide security, build hardened shelters, connect to Russian command networks, and integrate with Russian early warning and data links. Strategic logic: by placing advanced weapons in Belarus, Russia reduces flight time to European targets, complicates NATO's defense planning, places missile threats deeper into enemy territory, divides adversary focus, and raises the cost of any preemptive strike on Russia, since attack on Belarus-based systems might escalate. It also reinforces Belarus's integration into the Russian defense space. Internally, this move likely required lengthy planning, interagency coordination, military, foreign affairs, intelligence, assessment of Western reactions, cost-benefit analyses, counterforce/countervalue trade-offs, and risk modeling escalation, accidents, countermeasures. Russia is effectively betting on deterrence and escalation risk to buy it strategic leverage. In sum, the interior reveals a system of advanced missile design, political, military doctrine shifts, allied coordination, intricate logistics, and strategic posturing, not a simple deployment, but a complex intertwined system of power projection. Performance: how well might this deployment work in practice, and what are its capabilities and limitations? First, speed. Oreshnik is claimed to exceed Mach 10, making it extremely difficult for existing missile defense systems to intercept or track. The high velocity compresses reaction time for defenders. Second, range. With ~5 zeros, 0-5, 500 km range, a Belarus-based Oreshnik could strike deep into Europe, covering NATO capitals, military bases, strategic infrastructure, and possibly parts of Western Russia or beyond. Third, payload flexibility. Capability to carry conventional or nuclear warheads gives flexibility. That versatility complicates adversaries' assessments. Is this a conventional strike or a nuclear threat? The multiple warheads/MIRV or submunition mode further allows multiple simultaneous targets or saturation effects. Fourth, survivability. By placing the missile in Belarus, Russia diversifies basing locations, reduces vulnerability of missiles in Russian heartland, and can use mobility, concealment, hardened shelters, decoys, and rapid launch sequences to complicate enemy preemptive counterstrike. But limitations exist. Stockpiles are likely small, as Oreshnik is new, so Russia cannot sustain many strikes. Accuracy for conventional payloads is uncertain. Intercept resistance is claimed but not proven in combat against modern defenses. The political cost is high. Deployment across international borders invites intense scrutiny, countermeasures, and escalation. The logistics tail is heavy. Adversaries may develop countermeasures, improved radars, interceptor missiles, electronic warfare, preemption over time. Thus, performance is promising on paper, but real-world constraints and adversary countermeasures will challenge its ultimate effectiveness. Safety features, or rather, risk mitigation, countermeasures, and defensive Safeguards in the world of military systems. Safety means both protecting friendly assets and limiting unintended escalation or accidents. Russia and Belarus will likely incorporate robust command and control safeguards, strict authorization protocols, redundant checks, secure communications, destructive safety interlocks, and anti-tamper systems to prevent unauthorized launches or accidents. Missile systems often include fail-safe devices, e.g., destruct or abort mechanisms to avoid malfunctioning missile, threatening unintended targets, or colliding mid-flight. If an error occurs, protocols would exist to self-terminate or divert. The basing sites will be hardened, protected by air defense systems, electronic countermeasures, camouflage, concealment, and decoy installations to reduce vulnerability. Buffer zones and exclusion areas would attempt to limit collateral risk or civilian exposure. On the defensive side, adversaries will try to develop interceptors, boost detection satellite, radar, electronic warfare to jam tracking, lasers or directed energy in future, and preemptive strike capabilities. Thus, one domain of safety is the adversary's attempts to neutralize the threat. Russia must anticipate these and build redundancy and resilience. Another risk is escalation. Deploying nuclear-capable missiles invites tighter scrutiny, risk of miscalculation, accidents leading to unintended escalation, or triggering broader war. The safer path is ambiguous signaling, calibrated deployments, and disciplined escalation control. One more safety consideration: environmental and collateral damage. Launches, tests, or accidents may produce fallout, debris, or damage to surrounding infrastructure, particularly in Belarus. So buffer zones, safety protocols, and emergency response must be in place. Unique selling points: what new advantages this deployment offers over prior alternatives, and why Russia is pursuing it. First, forward basing. Placing advanced strategic missile systems closer to Europe shortens flight time, complicates detection and intercept, and improves strategic reach. That gives Russia leverage in deterrence and coercion. Second, psychological and signaling power. Even the announcement of deployment sends a message of technological maturity and strategic resolve. It heightens fear and uncertainty among adversaries. It blurs the line between Russian and Belarusian strategic symmetry. Third, flexibility of payload. Ability to deliver both conventional and nuclear warheads means the weapon is multipurpose. It forces adversaries to treat any launch as potentially nuclear, raising the stakes of defense and caution. Fourth, survivability and dispersal. By diversifying locations, Russia reduces dependence on fixed internal bases, making it harder for an enemy to knock out all strategic missiles. Fifth, escalation advantage. If Russia can credibly threaten escalation, it may deter adversary strike plans or compel diplomatic concessions. The novelty of deploying hypersonics in an allied nation gives a strategic edge. Sixth, cost asymmetry for the adversary. Defending against hypersonic threats is expensive. Adversary must invest heavily in interceptors, sensors, tracking, layered defense, and continuous modernization. Seventh, integration into a broader deterrence posture. Combined with Russia's revised nuclear doctrines, air, naval, and space capabilities, this missile reinforces an integrated deterrence umbrella over Belarus and Russia. Thus, the selling points are deterrence, reach, psychological leverage, flexibility, survivability, escalation control, and forcing adversary resource drain. Price/cost in this domain, we interpret price as both monetary/industrial cost and strategic cost risks, political backlash, opportunity cost, monetary cost. Hypersonic missile systems are extremely expensive, from research and development testing, production, materials, infrastructure, command, control, maintenance, and logistics. The unit cost is not publicly disclosed, but likely hundreds of millions of dollars per battery/system when factoring infrastructure. The small production runs make per unit cost high. This is a luxury weapons system, not a mass weapon. Industrial cost. Allocating resources to Oreshnik means diverting funding, manpower, materials, and attention from other programs, e.g., air defense, conventional forces, drones. Russia must weigh whether hypersonics yield better return on investment than other systems. Strategic cost. The deployment may provoke diplomatic and military responses, sanctions, escalation, counter-deployments, alliances reinforcing. It may escalate the arms race. Russia also risks exposing its technologies, vulnerabilities, or provoking miscalculation by adversaries. Political cost. Belarus may face backlash from neighbors, internal dissent, or pressure from NATO/EU. Russia also risks increased isolation, condemnation, and risk of retaliatory deployments by Western powers. Opportunity cost. Deploying to Belarus forces trade-offs. If conflict intensifies, Russia might have to defend those missile bases, commit forces, deal with local security overhead, and be vulnerable to strikes in Belarusian territory. Thus, the price is high in money, risk, political capital, and strategic exposure, but Russia evidently judged the balance favorable for its goals. Conclusion. In conclusion, the deployment of Russia's Oreshnik hypersonic missile system to Belarus represents a bold strategic gamble, a move that seeks to reshape deterrence, extend Russia's reach, and complicate adversary planning. Externally, the deployment signals power, posture, and escalation readiness. Internally, it is a complex integration of missile technology, doctrine, logistics, command systems, allied coordination, and political signaling. Performance promises speed, range, payload flexibility, and survivability, though real-world accuracy, stock sizes, and countermeasures remain constraints. Safety and risk mitigation are critical, especially regarding authorization, accident control, and escalation management. Its unique selling points lie in forward basing, psychological leverage, dual-use flexibility, survivability, and escalation dominance. But the price is steep financially, politically, strategically, and in opportunity cost. What it means for the rest of the world is significant. NATO and European states now face a shorter warning window, must accelerate missile defense, intelligence, countermeasures, and rethinking of deterrent postures. The strategic balance shifts somewhat as power projection moves closer to Europe's doorstep. The deployment tightens the link between Russia and Belarus as an integrated military front. It intensifies arms race dynamics. It also raises the risk of miscalculation or accidental escalation in crises, making stable deterrence more fragile. For viewers and analysts, the key takeaways are: this is not just a weapons deployment, it is a chess move in high-stakes strategic signaling. Monitoring developments, satellite imagery, military exercises, diplomatic responses is essential. The true test will come when or if these missiles are ever used in conflict, and whether adversaries can develop defenses or counteractions. In short, this deployment is a potent escalation in the strategic game, designed to reshape power projections and force adversaries to react. Whether it will be effective over time depends on Russia's ability to sustain production, protect the systems, and manage escalation while adversaries scramble to counter it. That wraps up our deep review of Putin deploys hypersonic missiles to Belarus, what it means. Thanks for watching.